I feel like we need to address the situation with your face right now. Could you have not have gotten what was it, microneedling? Is that what you did?
Yeah, it's the fall. That's when you do microneedling.
Okay,
I'm shedding 2022 away so I can start 2023 with fresh skin.
Well, were we just not going to address this situation when we're also doing a content day today?
You don't need perfect. You just need done. So we're here. This is for the audience so that they know. If they could see my face, some of you guys just might be listening, but if you could see.
Hold on a second. Let me give a great. Imagine someone who was drugged by like one ankle on the back of a truck on a rocky gravel hot Texas road, like face planted on the ground, scratching, being drugged. That's the visual representation. And now you're licking your lips as if you're like batting those eyes and looking all cute.
I'm just saying, in 2023, when my face and skin looks fresh and, you'll be a little bit jealous. So. Anyways, it's December. We are going to get rolling. It is the Nerd and Byrd podcast. I'm excited for this one because we just got back from a 4-day intensive Todd Duncan High Trust Academy, which if you guys don't know, he's been a mentor of mine. That's the first conference and academy I went to when I started my career. But we have some things to unpack from that 4 days. I mean, we're talking 8 a.m. to 6:15. And then I want to share what we're working on and our advice that we have for people in 2023. So let's start unpacking Todd Duncan.
Well, I think that when you said intense workshop, so if you've ever been to Sales Mastery, how it is different than High Trust Sales Academy, which for the record, this was my third official High Trust Sales Academy. What about you? How many?
Fourth.
Darn it.
Fourth, yeah.
You know what was really funny? Just gave me the little reminders when they did the rock, paper, scissors, and the guy did the fire. I'm like, that was never really funny.
Yeah.
So this was my third academy, and it's like seeing a movie multiple times. You may assume like, okay, I've been once, I may not need to go back, but it's like a legit 3.5 pound binder of like scripts and tactics and like an entire playbook of all the things that we all want, or a lot of things that my clients ask for. And the second time around, I had a completely different perspective and like ahas from the first. And then even this one, now being out of mortgage, and it shows that the principles and the laws that he teaches can be applied to any industry in any sales professional world, because it's based on psychological truths and just good fundamental practices of giving good advice and being a great consultant, not just a salesperson.
Yeah.
So,
and so if you're a loan officer listening right now and you've never heard of Todd Duncan, or even if you're in real estate, Todd Duncan is kind of like the Tom Ferry of the mortgage space. So he is a mentor, he's a coach, he does conferences every year, and his two biggest events are the Sales Mastery, which I classify Sales Mastery as kind of like being in the game. And I think of the academy as like going to 5 practices. It's like a practice. You watch film, you scout, that's the tactical type stuff. So
I was thinking training camp.
Yeah, like training camp. Yeah, that's probably a better.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, good job. That's a better way to. But it's intense and it's good. And I agree with you. Like the first time I went, obviously I was brand spanking new into this business. I didn't even know how to close a purchase loan, or even have a conversation with an agent or a client, or what's even meaningful to them. And so I feel like the reason why it feels different each time you go is because you're in a different headspace when you go. Like in 2013 when I went, I'm in a different headspace than fast forward today. I've got a team. And so now I'm focused on how can I make sure that my team is learning and that we're all raising the level. And so that's how I think that's part of it, why we feel like it's like you learn something. Sometimes someone says something to you and they could say it in the exact same words, but you hear it differently depending on the day. You think so?
100%. I feel like that happens all the time when I try to communicate. Like in my mind, like on Hitch, when he's like in my mind, I saw that go a little differently. There's times when I'm talking and I'm like, I think people understand what I'm saying, and then I realize I've left out a few words because my brain operates so quickly. And I think because us growing up being twins, sometimes we would not always complete our sentences, but we were kind of on the same wavelength. And so I'm on to the next.
Gotcha.
And sometimes people are like,
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. We're like,
are you
really clear.
Yeah.
It's clear.
In my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say, like, what was the biggest things that you took away for the loan officers and even real estate agents? Because just so you guys know, there were some real estate agents that attended and took away a lot. And I asked her, I said, would you come again? She said, next year I plan to bring my entire team, which I thought was
the big real estate agent that was there.
Yeah.
Well, because I think, and you said it, as you're growing your team, the challenge can be is sometimes it's the leader that goes to these classes and everybody else is behind. And it's like, if you're not learning the same thing at the same time, it's just different when you try to come back and teach your team. It's almost like when you're a parent trying to teach your kids, sometimes you don't profit in your own home. And so when everybody can go together and be submerged and hear it from the master of how it's applied and how it works, it's like you have that buy-in and everybody just ends up moving that needle faster because everybody's on the bus at the same time, going the same speed. But so
it's kind of like going to church at the same time or hearing a message. You know, it's like if one spouse is hearing the other, it's like you can go home and try to articulate it all. But it's like if you're moving through that psychological journey and growth together, then you truly are growing together. So
well, and just the influence of the messenger. Sometimes the message can get lost when it's the same messenger over and over. So it's why a lot of CMOs from other mortgage companies who have social media, they will hire me to come speak at their, next Zoom meeting for their company. Not because I'm saying anything different every time, but it's just having someone else deliver the message can help anchor in what you're trying to teach.
Yeah.
So my biggest takeaway this time was the beginning part, which we often just kind of like speed past the whole vision, life purpose, life planning. What are your values? Like getting crystal clear on those and then creating goals and objectives that align. Because when you are forced to adopt other people's goals or you're forced to do certain tasks and certain job roles that don't align with your highest values, it's often why we quit on them. So it made me think of with social media, the people who hire us who quit, at the 5 or 6 month mark, I then challenge, what is it that you believe about social and how does it align with your bigger purpose? Because like someone like you, when people tell me, I'm just too busy. And I'm like, okay, well, Denise closed and helped over 720 families last year. And because it aligns with her core value of really teaching and educating, it's not such a chore for you, even when your face looks like it's been drug on the concrete for a few miles.
It's a good thing this is an audio podcast.
Yeah, well, it will be on YouTube. So I sure hope everyone is like pausing. Please zoom in and take screenshots and let's tag. No, just kidding. But, so it's just.
But you know what? That goes to your point. There are a lot of people that would be like, there's no way I'm getting on camera and on this podcast. We could have easily rescheduled it. But I don't care what I look like or sound like as much as I care about the content that's getting out, truthfully. And so with social media, it's like, I feel like it is my almost financial responsibility to teach people about money and buying a home. And especially now I feel it more than ever is like, we're in an artificially high rate environment, but should you buy now? Should you wait? If you wait till 2023, our home price is going to go down. Am I going to get a better deal? Or how can I buy a home today and still have a low mortgage payment with a little, I wake up with a passion to get that out to the masses because I feel like if I don't, then Fox News or your news outlets are just going to lead with fear. And that's just, it's not right. It's not a way to be. So it doesn't matter if I have a big old zit on my face or if my face is peeling. Clearly. Or
we totally are picking up what you're putting down here.
But it doesn't matter. I think people obsess about like, nobody cares. I know it sounds cliche to be like content is king, but truly, I mean, I don't know, give this a thumbs down if you think my face looks like crap and we should have rescheduled. You know what I mean? But guess what? I'm not really going to care. I'm going to do it again because it's going to be what, hopefully, when you guys are listening to what we're talking about as we're ending the year And as we end with such a great conference, that we can share a couple of nuggets with real estate agents and loan officers nationwide that gives you the courage to get on your social media platforms and record those videos, and don't make it about you. Make it about the audience.
Well, sometimes that's easier said than done in the fact that like some have the same value. It's a internal self-approval and just personal development. And so for some clients, and I have a lot of empathy for people in that position because I was very insecure getting on social. I know people don't, like sometimes they think this is just supernatural for me. But when I was an originator, I did not like it because I felt so insecure talking about mortgages because I just hadn't learned yet enough to feel confident when I showed up online. So I will say the cure to that is studying your trade, subscribing to the YouTube.
But how does that get over like the insecurity of getting on camera?
Because the confidence that once you realize what you have to say is valuable and you know it, like there's a lot of times I do webinars and I have no idea what I'm going to be asked. I have no idea what the topic is. I don't even know who we're interviewing. And people are like, I would be petrified. I would need a call prior to, but I consume this content like it's the air I breathe because I really am passionate about it, that there's not anything anybody could ask me that would throw me off my game because I'm constantly up on the algorithm. I'm constantly studying it. So, and then if I don't know, then I'm perfectly fine with being like, yeah, I don't know. Like I was asked today about Google ads and I was like, I'm taking a certification course at the end of this year. So I'm not as up to date on the Google My Business or Google Business Profile. So I wouldn't want to say or give advice yet until I take this recertification because I'm a little rusty on it. And so I'm okay with admitting that. But you've got to study your trade and not just be a regurgitator of headline news because you smell the inauthentic or the fraud within yourself, which comes out, and body leakage is what I call it. Where
body leakage, that's a visual.
we all have
just made Adam laugh. That's how disgusting body leakage is. For the record,
it's for the nonverbals. It's like there's things that come out like when people are lying. Okay, all right. Well,
so the point is if you struggle with getting on camera or you struggle with social media, become a student and learn, and you will start to build up that confidence.
As well as focus on personal development. Like that's what I'm most passionate about, is teaching people to value their own opinion above other people's.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's not easy. I mean, when you start putting yourself out there, you get people that start making comments that are like, you should not have posted that, or you have some negative Nellies out there. But when you can allow them to own the problem, it's not, sometimes people will see in you what they don't actually like within themselves. It has nothing to do with you. Yeah. Or maybe you shouldn't have posted. Like maybe your face does look a little scratchy, but that's the beauty about socials. You can post what you want, and if you don't like it, then it's like, then don't follow me or restrict or mute, or you have that freedom. So,
I think that's a really important thing that you just said, is because you're right. I mean, I've been posting videos and using my social media as a business tool and not a toy since literally 2013. And every single time I post, I will get a comment on the post, and people don't believe me, but it's just because I delete it quick enough. And if I don't like the comment, and sometimes it's not even something at me, it might just be a little bit negative, or it might start to get political, or I just delete the comment because I'm in control of my newsfeed, or what I want on my newspaper. And I don't want your comment there. That's not the place for it. And I actually, one time, I was kind of going back and forth with a guy with his opinion. I can't even tell you what it was about, but I deleted it. And then I sent him a private message and I just said, hey, I don't mean to insult you by removing your comment. I just don't want that. I don't want the message to get lost in the video that I posted. And so I removed it, but I'm happy to engage with you here. And of course he didn't, because he wasn't getting the public exposure. But that's just a good lesson for us all. Just because you get a negative comment, you don't have to feel bad about removing it. Just remove it. Most people don't even know that you did, and they don't go back to look. But you're in absolute control of who posts on what. So,
well, and I think too, I had made a post on my Facebook, and I did not even think, like it hadn't even crossed my mind of how someone else could have interpreted the post and how it could have been offensive to another industry expert. It was talking about marketing and gurus, and it didn't even dawn on me until I had received a comment, and it was quite extensive. And I thought, this person never comments on my stuff. And I was actually seeking your feedback, and you're like, well, maybe it was taken personally. Like maybe this person thought it was a dig towards, them. And so I thought, there's no way. I wouldn't even cross my mind. But just to be cautious, I went ahead and sent a private message and was like, hey, just wanted to let you know this was not at all intended or directed at you. And you were actually right, because this person mentioned I had several people take screenshots and they actually thought it was referencing me. And I was like, I feel so bad that.
And here you have so much respect for that person, but the world wants to see a different narrative. You know?
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show that you may even take things personally that you see on social, and it may not be real. That may not be what was intended.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why people have a love-hate relationship with it, is because even I am not on social as much these past few months. And
you're welcome.
I think people get their feelings hurt if I'm not liking their stuff. Like I have to be really careful with my real estate agents, because it's like, if I'm not liking and commenting or engaging as much just because I'm taking a little bit of a sabbatical, it's like, it could be viewed it's a love-hate. So I think just to offer some reassurance, we're both social media people, and we're sitting here saying we have a love-hate relationship, but you still have to be on because you need that social credibility. And to ultimately build confidence, you have to be a student. But what else would you say from the Todd Duncan event stuck out to you?
I would say the number of new people in the room who had never attended a Todd Duncan event.
Yeah.
This was both at Sales Mastery and at his academy. And it just shows the hunger of the newer generation that's coming up, or the new LOs. And it reminded me of back when 2013, when we were sitting in that room, and I actually sent Todd an email of how my income, I've 20x'd my income in less than 10 years. Since attending my very first High Trust Sales Academy, and the ways that I've applied it in every industry that I've gone in since I've had a few of them. But it just goes to show, one, resilience.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter when you start, as long as you start. And just in a short period of time, if you can get super focused and apply the teachings, you can 20x your income.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually possible.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I took away is, he's known, his brand is the High Trust brand. And what that means is just having such an emotional connection with your clients and your realtors that there's a very high level of trust. And so to me, and this kind of segues into what we're talking about next, is what are our 2023 focuses, and what my advice to be for all real estate people, lender or realtor. I am so obsessed. That's why I've taken a little bit of a sabbatical on social media, is because I'm trying to consume as much information as I can about the generational change and disruption that's going on right now, and then how to combine a digital experience with an emotional connection and that high trust. Because if you study, so many people right now, I think, are just focused on the market shift with the interest rates and inventory and home prices, but they are not at all paying enough attention to this generational change. And what I mean by that is, I know we know the generations, like the baby boomers and the Gen Ys and the millennials and Gen Zs, but Gen Zs, when they were 8 years old, so that's kind of our first time home buyer bucket right now, that's the age group. When they were 8 years old, they had a smartphone. Like not even just a cell phone, but a phone they connected to the internet with a camera, and then they had social media. And so if first-time home buyers can make up the biggest bucket of buyers, why aren't real estate people spending more time learning how these people spend money, how they research, how they hire, how they consume, what problems they have? We're missing it. Like it's not even on people's radar right now. And I have been reading and watching podcasts and studying for the last 2.5 months. So I just prepared a slide deck like this thick of all the research, and it's fascinating. I made a post the other day, and it was like the different generations and how much money they think they need. And I just asked the audience, Why do you think the Gen Zers think that they need so much more than the baby boomers? And I purposely left it open-ended because you have, which is typical, you have a group that's like, oh, they just want more Teslas. Not enough Teslas. Oh, that's a superficial world and they're trying to keep up with the Joneses and the Graham life. Like there was a series of those. And then there was a series of like, well, the cost of living is more expensive than it's ever been. Inflation's at the highest it's ever been. A car costs more than it ever has. When I bought my first house, it was $149,000 in Frisco, Texas. You can't even come close to that. You can't even buy an empty lot on a half acre for $149,000. And then the cost of school. And it's like, plus they grew up in a time period where they saw their parents go through the housing crash because they did grow up with a smartphone and videos. They were exposed to more crimes visually, like all the shootings and stuff. We used to only hear about that stuff on newspapers or if you tuned into the news. Now it's all over here. Like that's how they grew up. Mm-hmm. So that is something that I would say that's my one of three, because we're going to share three each. But that is my one of three that I think people need to be. If you're a real estate agent, the average age of a realtor is 55 and the average age of a lender is 53. And they have no idea how these Gen Zers want to communicate, how they research. So tune in. If you're not on my email list, you definitely want to get on my email list because we're going to be hosting masterminds and I'm going to be uncovering all these things that I've been studying that will help you be able to attract these buyers, because a lot of these sellers have low rates. They don't want to. And by the way, I don't mean that you have to do a bunch of TikTok dancing and lip singing. Like that's not what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But that's got to be on your radar. That's my number one tip for 2023. What about you?
Well, so I love your tip because it is the essence of what marketing does, and there's psychological aspects to it of knowing who your ideal audience is, and not everyone is completely aware of who their ideal audience is, but also what is the psyche of what drives them, what motivates them. And you're right. I remember commenting on that post. I don't remember what I said now, but context is really important. And so knowing when you're asking what kind of time frame are we in, and I think it's just probably typical of older generations to assume that they just want this Graham-worthy life, when ironically, Be Real, the newest social media platform, is really gaining stripes, and it's all about being real. Right. So like the younger demographics actually love Be Real because you get one, and Gary Vee called it. He had said that there would probably be a platform where you only get one post a day. There's no filters. Right. It shows the front. There's no later grams where you post things. It's all about being
in the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And some of the Gen Z people that I have on my team, they don't even like photos taken with an iPhone because they want like no filters whatsoever. They want it to actually be real. What I'm personally, are you asking like me personally, or if I'm a real estate agent or mortgage person?
For the audience, what should they be? I mean, I guess that's what you're focusing on because you're in marketing, but what are you?
It's being more intentional with your brand and knowing that you can have a personal brand and a business brand, and I think you should, because there's lots of ways you can monetize a personal brand by also highlighting other interests that you have. So if I limited myself on just being a social media strategist, there's so much more, clearly, that I love business, marketing, personal development, funny memes. That is my, like, you look at my personal Instagram and it's like Hot Mess Express, but that's okay. Like, that's my form of expression, and it's gotten me brand deals. It's gotten me ownership in different businesses, and it highlights me as a person. And I think that's where most loan officers or real estate agents get stuck. They think, should I have a personal brand or a business brand, and do I combine them? And the answer is it depends on your goals. If you are building a business built off referrals, then you probably just need the one that is meant for social proof, where you don't need the algorithms to scan your account to know that your ideal audience may be first-time home buyers, and it's going to be pushing your post as suggested content to get new eyeballs seen. So more online leads or lead exposure that way. Like, you have one, and that is because your business is built off referrals. And if someone happens to spot check you and they want to see if you're crazy, then they can search and scroll and they can judge you there and then make a decision if they feel safe enough to contact you. So there's multiple different strategies and goals, and everyone has different objectives when it comes to social, but you can't be invisible. And like Grant Cardone says, the only thing worse than being broke is being unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree.
So I would encourage everybody to get more visible.
Yeah. So I think the second thing that I'm working on is as a real estate person, we do so much before we come in contact with the client, during the process, whether that means they're pre-qualified or go under contract, but then even what we do after closing. And I think it's really important that if you're a consumer and you're thinking of buying, you should absolutely be asking your realtor and your lender, what does your customer service look like before, during, and after? And if they don't have an after, to me, that's really scary. And we haven't done a good enough job explaining what we do after you close on your loan, because it's like, oh, you close and then we share that with you. Because when you get pre-qualified, it seems so far in the distance, But we've started sharing, especially in a market that we're in now, that every month you get an equity report from us so we can monitor how your home's appreciating in value. We're going to look at the efficiency of your mortgage loan. Is the rate still competitive? Do you have PMI insurance? We provide a finance tip every single month that doesn't have anything to do with mortgage. So not to bore you guys with the details, but there should be, imagine buying one of your biggest assets. You don't know how to maintain it. Mm-hmm. You don't know how to check to see if the mortgage is still, or should you get your insurance checked?
When should I clean my air filters?
Yeah. All that kind of stuff that I think that we are going to be focusing on. How can we make the service before, during, and after the best, the Chick-fil-A status, and then making sure that we're sharing that with our buyers so that they can feel safe and secure when they do a mortgage with us.
Well, I would say that leads to my number 2, where it's getting focused on building communities and having your brand, because branding is more that emotional connection. It's the emotional side to, there's positioning. Positioning is more the logical side, like how does your brand or product sit in the consumer's mind? So there's a difference between the two, and often they kind of get confused. But it's how are you making your clients or community feel like they belong to something greater than just financed by the mortgage nerd. Like, you guys actually create the communities, and everything is centered around housing. Like, even when I was a teacher, everything we did and the test scores and the dropout rates was meant to make sure it was a certain standard, because that impacts housing. And it's like, you guys get to actually create the community, but then they don't, it's not like there's that loyalty of them feeling proud because it represents something, whether it's a small percentage goes to battered women or to single parents, or like your Christmas thing that you do for families who've had hardship who need help with Christmas this year. Maybe they need a mortgage payment. I know you don't really advertise or market that, but there's a lot of things you can do to give back to a community that makes you feel like you belong to something. And that is the number one human need, is to feel like they belong. So it's focused around building a tribe and a community. And that's where Facebook groups, I will say, I know Facebook, that's the one thing that they get done. They do pretty well with building groups and communities, is you can learn a lot and create that stickiness because of the groups that they have. So
I like that. That's a good, maybe I should add that. So this is my third and final one. I'm going to pull this up. I'm not being rude and getting on my phone, but
I feel like that was an attack since I got on my phone earlier. That was one of her like subtle passive aggressive.
But if you if you meet with me, my phone is put aside. Like, I am big on being present, which might mean you text me or you call me. That's why I tell clients, don't call if it's during normal work hours and it's Monday through Friday. You're gonna get me faster if you call the office, because I do try to be 100% present. Okay, so one of my others is, I feel like as a lending partner, it's our job to quantify things for consumers and for real estate agents. So I know things isn't very descriptive, but I'm just going to give you an example because this happened today. So we have a real estate agent. Her name's Lane. She's one of the best in DFW, and she has a client right now that is buying a home. She's buying it on her own. She just got divorced. She's got 3 kids, but she is in a similar industry and already has a lending partner. So she was pretty adamant, like, hey, Lane, I know you love the nerds, but I'm going to use my lender to I've always used blah, blah, blah. So she got a fee statement from the lender, And that lender's rate seemed high and the cost seemed kind of high. And Lane cared enough, even though she was already told no once, but she cared enough, not because we pay her, that's against RESPA, to say, I just feel like this is really high and I think you should get a second opinion. So because she cared enough about her client and the money, the client was like, okay, fine. So she sent the client to us, ran her credit, got the fee sheet, and our interest rate is a half a point lower. And anyways, long story short, we're going to end up doing the deal because it was such a financial benefit. But of course, now that other lenders like, I don't believe it. Show me the proof. And anyways, because Lane cared enough to push that, we're saving her a lot of money. And this is what I texted her. I said, Lane, just to put this in perspective, because you encouraged her to give us a chance, this single mom is now getting a lower interest rate. It's saving her $209 a month. It's saving her $6,000 in upfront closing costs because that other lender was charging points for a higher rate. In 10 years, this is going to save her over $25,000.
Wow.
Now imagine if she took that $25,000 and put it and invested it in a college plan for her kids. She has two little twins. Or the $200 a month that she's freeing up could probably go towards diapers. I said, in case people think a realtor doesn't save them money, who you work with matters. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to do a better job. Agents do this all the time. And as a lending partner, we don't quantify, like, you being connected to a realtor's Rolodex, if you will. These Gen Zers are like, what in the hell is a Rolodex? Yeah.
I'm sorry. You just said a curse word.
Yeah.
And you told me I could not curse.
That's because my brand is very peachy. I don't really think hell is a cuss word. But
I hope everyone sees the mom factor that's going on right now. And this is why I once had my own Instagram account that was private. So you
just get a little mouthy, and my brand is very PG. So,
and I said mine is PG-13.
Okay.
Sometimes Deb X.
Yeah, but that's why
we should have a Deb after hours.
Oh my gosh.
Unsubscribe if you don't want to follow.
Yeah, you're just a little X-rated.
But our parents are from New York, so I don't look at
Massachusetts. It's not New York. They're from
East Coast.
Okay. Well, that's very different in that.
You said a curse word, and I've done very well this entire time.
Thank you. Anyways, that's the power of, like, why don't we? It just showcases the fact that is why Lane is so good, is because she does care enough to push a little bit, and she does believe that we can save like $200 a month for a single mom with 3 small kids. That's huge.
That is huge. Those are the stories I like to hear from clients, because then we turn them into social stories.
But loan officers do it all day long. I was just on our Nerd Academy call, and I'm like, we don't even think to share it because we do it all the time. And so we have to do better sharing that feedback to our partners, and they need to share it on their social media outlets, because she could have, listen, it's December 2022. There's not a whole lot of people buying and selling right now. So she could have very easily just coasted to the finish line and been like, okay, great. You trusted your client, but she cares.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Great. Mm-hmm. I like that, nerd.
Yeah. All right, your turn. Last one, third one.
My last one would be focusing on collaborations, and whether that's doing social interviews, it's getting with other industry experts in your community. So it could be the lead surgeon or the OBGYN or the divorce attorney, but it's part being strategic and intentional with other like-minded professionals who also get in front of 100 people a day or thousands of people a day and have influence, and finding ways where you could help either solve their problems or give them a platform through your social of just sharing with your community. Because again, talking about the communities that we serve and that you guys build, there's a lot of people who don't know basic things like, I call it adulting. Like if I am a single woman and I buy a home and my boyfriend has horrible credit, so I don't want to put him on the loan, but I'm using his money for the down payment. Right. Should he go on the deed?
Right.
And what does commingling of funds mean if maybe you're a single woman who has your home and then you get married and y'all move in together and unfortunately there's a divorce? Like what happens? That's not your home if it's a community property state. It then becomes, both of y'all's. And so there's things that I say is adulting. Even like if someone passes, we had a good friend who was 15 years old who passed. It was very unfortunate, shortly after Thanksgiving. And it's like most people don't know do you have like your bank accounts and you
Yeah.
have beneficiaries lined up, and do you have a trust or a will, or like, and have you recorded it so that it's documented? And it's just, you could have collaborations with estate attorneys, or, talk about wealth protection, life insurance, and knowing the differences. And so it's such a value for the business, but then also your people who may not know who to connect with. You get to be that human connector.
Yeah. And it just reminds me of going into the holidays. You're around your family. And so when you're talking about things like that and the 15-year-old, and it's like sometimes the holidays can be a very joyful time for people, and sometimes it can be a very stressful and lonely time. And the truth is that people today have more credit card debt than ever. There are a lot of people who are getting laid off. There are a lot of people who aren't getting paid out their bonuses, or their hours are being cut. And so I would encourage you, as you're sitting around the family table celebrating whatever you celebrate, that don't shy away from those finance conversations with your family. I don't know why families, I don't know if it's shame or but it's like we never talked about money and finance at the table. Dad never actually said that our mortgage payment is late, or like we never talked about it.
Not, it's very taboo. Like you don't, just like your kids, like if your kid walked up to someone and said, "How much money do you make?" Would you be like, "Ooh, Carter, that's rude. Don't ask that."
Yeah.
Like we train from a very young age that you don't talk about money.
Yeah. And that's why my financial advisor, he has this great little booklet, and it's like a couple of pages, and he always says, take it to the Thanksgiving table or Christmas table. And it asks the family, like, what would you want happen if you two were to pass? What would you want to happen with the kids and your house? And does somebody have a list of all your passwords and bank accounts and 401ks and
can someone just make sure to delete my Google search, please?
Yeah,
I'm
we'll make sure to
the
put your
dumbest
Deb
questions
X,
alive.
The Deb X.
That I just go ahead and re-verify and check
what
myself.
What was that movie with the blonde chick, Reese Witherspoon and her old boyfriend? It was like they had that little private book, not conventionality. Anyways, it was like this little private journal that he wrote all of his things in, and it wasn't until he passed. It's like 20 years old. It's so super old.
There was like a period of time where I lived under a rock.
Yeah, we're aware. No, just kidding. But seriously, if you want a copy of that booklet, you can send me an email. It's pretty,
I want a copy. I don't think I have it.
Denise@themortgagenerd.com, and I'll get you in contact. But just it is a time where some people might be disguising that there's all this social pressure to buy presents. Do you know I was looking at Facebook Marketplace and I saw the coolest Spider-Man cart thing. It was like you could sit in it and it would go. And I thought to myself, you could either buy this brand new for $250 or used on Facebook Marketplace for $60. And that's without even negotiating.
Denise is the cheapest. Can I please give the mother-in-law couch story?
No, we'll save that for another time. But it's just being frugal. Why overspend? He's probably going to play with it like 5 times. This thing looks freaking awesome. Do you want me to show you it? It's amazing.
Meanwhile, I feel completely guilty because I ask my kids, "What do you want for Christmas?" And they're like, they can't even give me. I'm like, that means you have everything you want the moment you want it. Like, I feel bad because I've clearly spoiled my kids where they're like, we can't even think of, they each get 3 presents. Oh, you're really showing me this. Let me see.
I mean, this thing it's a Spider-Man electric, like Carter
go-kart?
would go crazy. And I don't have to put it together, but it's on sale. Like, look how cool this is. So I'm saying,
it's pretty cool. I would do that.
Don't feel like you even, like, if you're legit, if you're looking at your finances and like, don't go broke for Christmas.
For status and.
Yeah, for status.
I think it's just hard for parents when, especially if you have a lot of kids and you want to be able to give them, like, I can't imagine our dad.
Buy them the knockoffs, like that app that Amy was telling about. You don't have to get the actual legit Nike shoes. How much are those shoes regular?
A lot.
Versus like the app. What's the name of the app? I can give them a little shout out. Tell them to sponsor our next podcast. But I'm just saying, will the kids even know that it's a knockoff?
It's called DH Gate. DH Gate. It's a yellow square.
Okay.
And they wanted the Yeezy. I didn't even know what it was. It was like Yeezy, the Kanye
shoes.
West tennis
Nobody's
shoes.
buying Kanye stuff right now.
Oh, well.
But I'm just saying, don't go broke. That would be we're going into the holidays. There are some people that are struggling. They're not going to tell you they're struggling. Some people may have lost family members and their holidays just aren't the same.
Could be their first holiday without a family member.
So not to go Debbie Downer, but we are wearing green and red. So I feel like this is like
It wasn't even
Christmas.
planned.
I know. I
Should
feel like
we show our
have-
shoes? Should we put our shoe on the table and show
Yeah.
the difference?
Yeah, we'll leave that for the gram.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. This has been a great podcast. I hope you guys end the year strong. Get ready for 2023. Tune in. Our next guest is Kai McBride.
I'm so excited. He's legit.
He might be the OG nerd.
He actually, like back in the day, he was like an IT geek.
You act like he's like old. He's like,
Well, he's Asian, so he always says this. So I feel like I'm allowed to repeat
You're
this.
not allowed to repeat that.
Okay, well then, let me make my rules for podcasts. No cursing, but Denise can curse, and then don't repeat anything that other guests.
Okay, fine.
got it.
He's Asian, so what does he say? I'm Asian, so I can say that, and it's because he looks young.
He doesn't. He doesn't age.
Yeah.
he looks great, but he is very. What I like about him is he was just a baller.
Yeah.
Back in the day with his
He
production.
is genius. He's a genius with data. He studies the data.
He's
so
nerdy.
Tune in. That is our very last podcast of the year. It's going to be our interview with Kai McBride. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, drop a comment, add a thumbs up.
Also, keep your questions coming in. So if you have questions that you want us to ask each other that could either be fun, comical, or serious questions, keep those coming as well. Those are my favorite parts. We haven't done that in a while. We need to make sure we do that.
We'll bring
in the
it
next
back.
one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.